The slogan was, I assume it still is, minutes to learn, a lifetime to master. I've always thought that's a pretty good slogan for this conversation, right? There's only three things, which are really one, but we can see it at deeper and deeper levels, and we can communicate it at just in 1,000 different ways. I remember talking to Sandy Crott once early on as I was learning, and I asked her, like, how is it different being in this conversation now than 30 years ago, right? And she said, well, when I first saw something about this, I saw something amazing that really helped people, and I really had one way of talking about it. And now I have 500 ways of talking about it. Right? What she saw hadn't changed. Now it had gotten deeper, right? It had gotten more, consciousness had expanded, her understanding had deepened. But really, it's the same thing. Mara said it in New York, right? She said, we're one-trick ponies. It's just that it's a great trick, right? So when I talk about this with my apprentices, I usually use the metaphor of apprenticeship, which is appropriate. Right? And apprentices didn't do a year and then they were masters. Right? That's not how it works. You would apprentice to a silversmith, and you might be there 1 year, you might be 3 years, you might be there as many as 7 years. And then, okay, well now I'm a master. No. Then you became a journeyman. You went out on the road and you plied your trade anywhere you could with anyone that would have you. And you often had to travel around because there weren't enough people who would take somebody who wasn't yet a master silversmith. But there were always people who would work with somebody who was learning. There were always places. And then after a certain amount of time and experience, without probably the mastery fairy coming along and going, you are now a master, right? That's how I think the mastery fairy talks. At some point, it becomes apparent, usually first to the people around you and maybe eventually to you, that actually you are a master at a craft, and then you would set up your own shop. Now, the stage were as narrow as a tightrope dancer's wire that no incompetent would dare step upon it. Anyone can call themselves a coach from day one, and often do, without any grounding at all, right? Now, if you know that you're not going to be a master in 9 months or in a year, but that you are on the journey of mastery, then that journey can be awesome. Like, most people look back on the time that they were developing their craft as the richest time in their career. Right, whatever the career, across the board. You talk to actors, you talk to teachers, you talk to people like it's that as they were coming up through the ranks, like there's a richness to that, there's a level of engagement to that. There's kind of a lack of pressure because, I'm not supposed to be good at it yet. But you get better, right? The reason that we've really encouraged you, maybe pushed you in your minds to have at least 50 conversations is just because it's a whole different conversation when you're in it than when you're thinking about it. There are things that we could say 1,000 different ways that you will not hear, that you have one experience and you go, oh, got it, right? So, given where you are on the journey, and I'm not saying you are here, right? But you're wherever you are. And there's a reasonably good chance that unless you came into this with 10, 15 years of experience doing this, you're probably not a master at this yet, right? I would not expect that of you. I would not hold you to that standard, and it would be weird to me, and ultimately it would lower my self-esteem if you were, right? But that does not mean you cannot master this. That does not mean that you cannot be on a path to mastery. That does not mean that the more you do it, the better you will get at it. So, to a certain extent, what I want to do in our time together here is enter into an exploration with you of some of the things that I think are going to help you go from apprentice to journeyman, to help you go from student to practitioner. And it's up to you how far you want to go.